Okay.
In relation to credit card fraud matters, would it be your wish that if we were to deal with that, we went in camera?
Senator, in that particular case, if you want to go into further detail, it would be my preference to go in camera because, as I said, there are some complex personal issues.
Righto. Senator Gallagher?
Thank you, Chair. Ms Dave and executives, we, this end of the table, are all beneficiaries of an extremely safe airline system in Australia, and we recognise your very valuable work in that part. And I suppose estimates is just a process where we get to question, if you like, the governance, the probity of organisations. And your executives mentioned the public works issue and the credit card. Mr Rothwell is the Chief Financial Officer. He's not here with you today?
No, Senator. The Chief Financial Officer is Mr Andrew Clark.
Oh, sorry, I've just printed it off your board. So we have the CFO here today?
Yes.
Excellent. So I just wanted to get some things on the record. Given the history of the organisation and given the history of the previous CEO allegedly resigning under a cloud of expenditure, if you like, on credit cards, I just want to get some stuff on the record. So how many corporate credit cards have been issued to directors and employees of Airservices Australia?
Senator, if I may, I don't believe any corporate credit cards have been issued to board members. In total, there are 1,168 credit cards issued in the organisation today.
And your total number of employees?
Approximately 4,340.
4,440. So about 25% of people have a credit card? In that order.
Can I just pause you there for a second?
Absolutely.
My understanding is that you may have, Mr Clark, and you've been in the current role approximately 8 to 10 years, acted as CEO following Greg Russell's departure, right hand to Greg Russell, and you might be mates with someone down the table, that you moved the credit card to culture for supervision, credit card inspection?
You're referring to who was signing off the previous chief executive's credit card? It had always sat with the head of People and Change.
Did it sit with you?
It no longer sits with me, no.
No, it did?
It did for a short period of time, yes. So it sat the...
So why did you change it over to culture?
Sorry?
Why did you move it?
Senator, the People and Culture is an organisation or the part of the organisation that looks after our HR function.
What's that got to do with the supervision of the credit card?
I
mean, a person standing at the back of the room might have thought you were trying to avoid introspection, you know, or responsibility for it, because you were responsible for it.
As we stated last time we appeared in estimates in relation to the matter, for a short period of time I was the authorising officer for the previous chief executive's credit card.
So did you tick off on the lunches at the Ottoman and all that stuff?
I authorised
$30,000 worth of lunches?
Around 3 months' worth of expenditure.
And how much did that tick up at the Ottoman in that time?
I think that's on the public record of around $21,000 was spent, but there was $21,000 spent at that particular establishment over a 7-year period.
But in the period of your overseeing and saying tick to lunch at the Ottoman, how much was spent?
I couldn't tell you, Senator, but it would have only been a very small portion.
What's a small proportion?
I'd have to take that on notice.
Take it on notice. Back to you, Senator.
Sorry, Chair, we just can just clarify. But you were only doing it for 3 months.
I believe that to be the case. It was
so
in that order.
If you could provide the actual time. So if someone was doing it before, which wasn't the CFO? Is that right?
The head of HR was authorising the credit card.
And then it came to you for some reason that we need to ask why did it get transferred to where I think it should be with the CFO, but can you tell us why?
No, look, I can't actually recall why it transferred. It may have been... It may have been in relation to the departure of the previous head of HR. So there was a period of time where HR managers left the organisation and so we were sans an HR manager. We had an acting manager at the time.
But surely the Chief Financial Officer is ultimately responsible for the financial management of the organisation.
So the Chief Financial Officer is responsible for the financial management of the organisation,
So wouldn't that include the credit cards?
including the credit cards as it relates to governance procedures, policies, management's instructions, etc.
So did it ring the bell with you, some of the credit card expenditure? I mean, if you were standing at the back of the room there and had nothing to do with any of this, and someone told you, oh, by the way, the CEO, God, he had a good time, he spent 21 grand down at the Ottoman, do you think they'd relate to that?
As we described at the last Senate estimates, which was now nearly 2.5 years ago, there was in the order of $400,000 spent on the previous Chief Executive's credit card, but that was over a period of 7 years. Do I think it was reasonable or unreasonable? I thought it was reasonable.
You thought it was all right for he and the missus to travel first class to wherever they were and buy a bottle of Grange and all the rest of it?
So
Do you think you'd get away with that?
in terms of what Mr Russell was or wasn't entitled to do, that was between him and the board and contained within his contract conditions.
I think, Chair, what we need to do for your indulgence is we have to get laid out. There was a period of time, we need to know what time that was, who made the decision that the credit card would be ticked off by the... Am I putting the question to you, Mr Clark, or you, Ms Stoke? Who do you want me to put the question
Or you
to?
can put it...
Either
put it to
or.
me.
Put all of you.
I mean,
Okay.
that period of time was before I joined
That's right.
Airservices, but...
No, I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
Look,
Very much.
to be
Chair,
fair...
Just need to get some
Yeah,
system here,
Yeah.
because there was
Yeah,
some
right.
shuffling here, then all of a sudden it shuffled back to the CFO, and is it still with the CFO? You still tick
No,
on
no.
that?
The
Okay, so all of a
arrangements...
sudden it's moved again.
Yeah, the arrangements for my expenditure, Senator, must be signed off by the chair,
By the who?
the chair of the board,
Mr Houston.
Okay, yep,
Mr Houston.
okay.
And that's done on a monthly basis, and that complies with the way we manage credit card expense throughout the organisation, i.e. All receipts have to be signed off at the end of the month by your supervisor.
Good, okay, I get all that and understand that, but I think, Chair, what we need to do is find out what was going on in that period of time. Why was it shifting? Who decided to shift it? When was it decided to shift? And whatever reasons, we need to know why.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, sorry, Chair.
So, before I go back, so the CFO, fair enough, someone's got to be the CFO, you're involved in accounting, financial strategy, procurement, contract management, legal and business improvement branches in the group?
That's correct.
And you were pretty good mates with Greg Russell?
Greg Russell and I had worked together over a period of nearly 7 years, so we established a very strong working relationship.
Back to you.
Okay, thank you. Look, I just would like to get some of the actual facts. So we've got 1,166 out of 4,400. What are the credit limits? What are the credit limits that are issued with these cards?
So there's a range of monthly transaction limits as well as individual transaction limits. So an upper limit for the month spend as well as an individual transaction limit. They range from $5,000 through to $50,000. However, the bulk of the cards are at around $10,000 to $15,000. So there's only one card that has a monthly transaction limit of $50,000. Which relates to an individual within the projects and engineering group responsible for purchasing software and other minor licensing components.
Okay, so
There are two types of cards, if I may. One is a corporate credit card that's designated for purchasing and purchasing activities and for purposes of efficiency, low volume, low cost type transactions. And there is another type of card, a travel card, that we issue to staff members rather than providing them with travel allowance.
Okay. So how many of these cards would have a expense for entertainment or what could be classified as entertainment other than expenditure attracted to in the course of their duties, purchasing software or arranging services? How many of them actually have an expense for entertainment or lunches, if you like?
So certainly the combination of corporate credit cards and travel credit cards would have some expense related to sustenance, so, you know, breakfast, lunch or dinner if you were travelling. There would be an element that on entertainment, but it would be very minor in nature, and per the credit card policy and procedure, card holders must first get the permission of the Executive General Manager, so one of the people sitting at this table behind me, before they are able to spend money for the purposes of pure entertainment.
Okay. So if I give you an example of some expenditure, where or which credit card would this be used for? So if there was corporate hospitality, which, say Miss Dave attended a function, which was basically not directly related to Airservices business, but might have been in support of, I don't know, women in business, a lunch for that, and you bought a table. So you get invitations, we get invitations all the time to go and support someone and buy a table of 10. Where does that sort of expenditure come from?
That expenditure, as an example, would likely to sit on a corporate credit card that would be issued to either Miss Stabe or one of Miss Stabe's staff members.
Okay. Can we get a list of the expenditure in that space?
In what space, Senator?
Where you've got an invitation to go and support a, you know, an event, and
Sure.
you've chosen as part of your corporate philosophy to support that event, and you bought a table of 10.
Yep, absolutely.
Can we get a list of that?
Of course.
And who it was attributed to, that expense?
Yes.
And by the by, what is Miss Stabe's credit card limit?
Now, that is a very good question. Do you know, Margaret? I've got a feeling, and if I'm wrong, I will certainly clarify.
I usually know what my credit card limit is.
I'll clarify the record. I think Miss Stabe's credit card limit might be $20,000 a month.
Okay.
So that's the maximum she could spend on that card in any one period.
Okay.
Mine's two. 2,000. My card.
Oh, is it?
But his wife's probably 30.
So just to sort of close the circle a bit on the credit cards, we know how many you've got, we've got an idea of what they're used for. What are Airservices, what is Airservices Australia's protocol pertaining to the use? Is it a written protocol? When you get a credit card, do you get an explicit document instructing you what you can do with that credit card?
Yes, you do.
And it's a published document?
Yes, it is.
And we'll get a copy of that?
Yes, you can.
And did Mr. Greg Russell comply with that?
Mr. Russell did comply with the credit card instruction.
And it's
that
still the
existed.
same. It's still the same set of rules.
No, the credit card procedure and management instruction over the last 2 years has gone through a series of edits and improvements, as you would expect.
I mean, is it the view, Ms. Stabe, that I'm sure the person at the back of the room would agree that it was excessive and that there's something wrong with the system that you could do what you did? And I mean, it's like tax avoidance overseas. We're missing out, you know, public schools and public hospitals funding but they're not breaking the law. It didn't have to be breaking the law, but seemed to be excessive. Would that be a fair comment?
From what I wasn't there, so...
Yeah, no, I understand that.
And from what I saw reported in the paper, yes, it did appear excessive.
Back to you, Senator Gallagher.
So just continuing on that line, so there's a protocol, very clear, written. The person signs for that protocol?
Yes, they do.
And what is the protocol for inadvertent or deliberate misuse of corporate credit cards? Because, I mean, I've managed people and sometimes they pay for fuel with the wrong card and, you know, have you got a protocol on that?
So if there is misuse, so as Ms Stabe pointed out in her opening address, there is a range of data mining, a range of review of expenditure, management review of expenditure. If there is a perception of misuse, then it's investigated locally by management. If there is a perception of fraud, then our security and resilience team will investigate that at a much deeper layer. Now, depending on the nature of it, it may simply have been an honest mistake, in which case we will ask the cardholder to reimburse that expenditure if they haven't already done so themselves. If it was simply inappropriate and they didn't understand or follow the procedure necessarily, then they would be cancelled. If it was more severe than that, then our code of conduct procedures would apply.
So the inadvertent or deliberate misuse is covered in the initial protocol?
It's certainly covered in our code of conduct procedures, yes.
When you get a credit card, you get the...
Yes, it's explicit in the sorts of behaviour and action management might take if the credit card is misused.
Okay. Now, I put these questions on notice to you, so we're going to get these protocols. So, having realised that you've got 1,166 cards with 5 to 50,000 credit limits, and you've got a protocol which you issue with them, just take me back to the reporting structure of how this is managed. It's not managed at the CFO level, but ultimately it's your responsibility.
So the framework and the management of the credit card system and the issuance of the credit cards is managed by the CFO. The reporting and the analysis and the data integrity control, if you like, is managed by me. In terms of the distribution of the credit card, obviously a card holder is sitting in a range of organisational groups, and between the card holder and their manager, and indeed the executive general manager of that group, they are responsible for doing their own checks and performance reviews on the use of those credit cards.
Okay, so from a taxpayer's perspective, whose head rolls when there is deliberate misuse or inadvertent misuse which results in a loss to the taxpayer? Is it the CFO's head that rolls, or is it the people and culture's head that rolls, or who is it?
So the appropriate action is taken vis-a-vis the card holder. So if the card holder has conducted some form of fraud or illegitimate use of the card, it's the card holder that bears the consequence under the Code of Conduct. So matters may be referred to the AFP, as we've discussed in previous Senate estimates here, and indeed individuals may be terminated under the Code.
So what level of 2,500 is not a sufficiently high enough loss for the taxpayer for you to
Senator,
inform
in
the
that
police?
matter, that individual was dismissed.
I'm worried about the money. I mean, he should have been dismissed, but I'm worried about the taxpayer losing $2,500. So what happened to that? I mean, that's just
Senator,
not worth doing. I mean, you can make a decision that 2,500, the intensive resources put in, but you got to do it. You got to do it and acquit it and say, you can only send so much good money after bad money.
Yep. Senator,
But you have to have a process for that.
Senator, we do have a process. In that particular matter, we did not pursue the repayment of those monies, and there are reasons for that, which, if you want me to go into...
I don't care about this individual. I'm just talking about the actual due process. You've got credit cards, you've got a protocol. You're saying to us, if someone inadvertently or deliberately misuses it, they get the sack. Well, I'm worried about the line of command, about who takes responsibility for the people they employ and the mistakes they make, because generally in business that's what you do.
So, Senator, if I may, we employ, as I said, around 4,300 people. We are a $1 billion company. We are nationally distributed with over individually 30 to 40 individual locations with a distributed staff base. Over the last 3 years, we've had 4 issues of credit card misuse, of which the misuse totalled $14,000. Of that $14,000, we've recouped $6,500. Now, on 2 of those occasions, we haven't been able to recoup for a variety of reasons.
And you haven't notified the police?
In one instance, we did notify the police, yes.
Well, I think The police will soon come back to you and tell you whether it's, it's worth investing resources in. But you have to cover that. You have to cover the taxpayer off, in my view.
But 4 cases, you say, 17 grand all up?
4 cases and $14,000.
So if I, does that mean if I cut someone's finger off, you don't go to the hospital, I cut their hand off, you do? I mean, the Crimes Act, and I've been through this and I don't want to go into any particular matter, but what probably happens when you do go to the police, but the obligation is, do you go to the police under the Crimes Act, is they say we've got, as I did recently, with a lawyer who took a dying person down who was his client for $300,000 through the estate, take it out to Parramatta personally to the fraud squad, and they said, oh, it's one of thousands, we haven't got time, we haven't got the resources to deal with it. I guess that would apply also to these sort of matters. Is that your experience?
In terms of these matters, we conduct, when they're identified, we conduct a very thorough investigation internally, and we follow all due process and procedure. Yeah. If we feel the matter needs to be referred to the AFP, we certainly do that.
By the way, just as an aside, it took me 12 months then to get the solicitor struck off.
So just on, probably finally on the credit card stuff, were they reported to the board, these instances of credit card fraud?
I would have to take that on notice, but certainly I'm aware of a range of those being reported to the board, but I'd need to clarify that for you.
Can I just add to that answer, Senator? We have a board audit and risk committee, and we have a fraud and ethics report that goes each time that meets, and any of those matters are reported in that committee report.
So it's really then the board's responsibility to make a decision as to whether it refers it to the police. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's management's decision.
Okay. So finally on this sort of subject, the decision to move credit card management to people and culture, was it your decision this day?
No, Senator, that occurred
prior to you?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I clarified that. I've got nothing further.
There are a lot of questions
cards
to come, and Senator Xenophon's got some questions on air safety.
Do you want to finish this?
Yeah, we'll do this for a start. Is Mr. Jason Harfield in the room?
No, Senator, he's not.
It was my error. I would like him to have been here.
Chair, I do have some questions about the issue of the issue of credit cards. They may have already been answered, but it might just be following on Senator Gallagher's line of questioning and your line of questioning. Look, given the controversy in relation to the former CEO in terms of the use of credit cards, I presume there's been a substantial rethink and change of protocols in respect of the use of credit cards. Is that a fair summary?
Certainly, over the last 2 years, we've made modification to the credit card policy and procedure for a whole range of reasons. As it relates to who signs the Chief Executive's credit card, who authorises annual leave, etc., from the corporate credit for the Chief Executive, there have been a range of changes that have been made since that time.
Okay, and those protocols, it's been reduced to a document?
It's been reduced to a document.
And have we got a copy of that? Has the committee got a copy of that new document? And it might be useful, I think. Would that be, I don't know whether Senator Gallagher will find that useful in terms of what were the form...
that on notice.
Yeah.
But that'll be the 10th of December.
Yeah. So, it's already been asked for, as I understand it, so it's on its way?
Yes, would be the answer if you've asked for it.
Yeah. So, and you can show us by contrast what the previous protocols were in respect of credit card use?
Yes, I can do that as well. So if we'd like to see how the credit card policy has been changed and or amended over the last X years, I'm more than happy to do that.
Yeah, that might be useful. And was there any referral to the authorities, to the federal police, in respect of any questions over credit card use in the past?
I think we've already answered that, and the answer is yes.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Chair.
Okay.
Mr. Stave, I'll just Mr Clark, you're right, you are a $1 billion company with absolutely no competition. So, Ms Stabe, I want to put some questions to you, and I want to go back to Senate estimates. Now, firstly, and I don't want to know the ins and outs of the last one, who it is, nothing like that, but who would know that there was credit card fraud or misuse, or whatever you want to say it, when I asked you in Senate estimates about this matter? So apart from, who would know?
As I said, we have the fraud, we actually have a fraud and ethics committee.
Just pausing there if you could. So could you tell us who's on the fraud and whatever committee?
It's not chaired by me, but my fellow executives are on that committee.
So could you name the individuals?
Yeah, name them.
Dr Weaver is co-chair with Mr Boyd, who's head of HR.
Okay. Anyone else?
Oh, and the CFO and...
Keep going, okay.
Mr Hood and...
Did you say Mr Boyd is on the...
Fraud and ethics, yes.
Yep. And he's pretty good mates with Mr Rodwell?
Well, I can't speak for that. We're all work colleagues.
Yeah, well, in recent times, have you been concerned about leaks out of Airservices?
In recent times, I have been. It concerns me when people can't bring questions or concerns to me.
Okay.
And in fact, we had a discussion, I think, 2 Senate estimates ago, when Senator Xenophon asked me a question about one of our technology projects, and we did talk about that.
That was in test?
Chair.
That in test.
Come back here.
Yeah, I know.
Let me get back on here.
I just trying to get my head around a couple of matters for later on. You're new to the job?
Well, I've
Regional.
been...
Couple of years. Couple of
2
years
years,
now?
Senator.
Yeah, and some of these folks have been there for ages under Greg. Are you aware of some of the tension in the office between various individuals?
Senator, we have 9 executives. We're a team. There are, at times, robust discussions on matters.
Does it concern you that there's a fair bit of tension?
Senator, we're working as a very effective team. There are some tensions on occasion around different issues.
That's all. I just want to confirm what...
Yep.
Okay, so let's come back, Ms Stabe. So who would have known that there was credit card fraud when I asked the question of you at Senate estimates last week or week before? And all the excitement, I can't remember what week it was.
No, a
last
couple
week?
a couple of weeks ago.
A couple of weeks ago, okay. Who would know? So you've said the team, so you've named them, and they are. Mr Clark would be on that team. You knew Mr Hood. No, he's saying no. So Ms Stabe, you got that wrong. Mr Hood wasn't on that team.
No, no.
I suggest you get some notes and tell us who was on the. Who would know? So fire away.
The chair. Yep. Can I just? This is Dr. Weaver.
Right.
Who's the Executive General Manager, Safety, Environment and Assurance, new to the role approximately 2 years.
Good afternoon. So I chair the Fraud and Ethics Committee, which is made up of representatives of Airservices Executive. Other representatives include the Chief Financial Officer and the Executive General Manager, People and Culture.
Who's that?
That's Mr Andrew Boyd.
Is Mr Boyd here?
Yes.
Hello? Yep, okay, great.
I've chaired that committee since March this year.
Okay, so there's 3 of you on that know about that.
And there's also representatives from the rest of the organisation, so the Chief Auditor, the Manager, Security and Resilience is often in attendance, and other representatives from People and Culture.
Okay, well, you can provide names, that's fine. So how many are there all up?
So the key members of the committee of the executive...
Who would have known, Mr Weaver, very clear, very precise, when I asked the question of Ms Stabe at Senate estimates 2 weeks ago, who would have known that there was credit card fraud?
The people that know of credit card fraud are the members of that committee and the representatives of that committee.
No, you've said all that. And tell me how many people. 5, 10, half the organisation,
to be clear,
2,000 what?
there will be other people that would know about individual cases of credit
So
card fraud.
a lot of people would know.
About individual cases, it would be quite a small number would know about each individual case.
Look, Mr Weaver, do you know how many people?
I don't know the exact number, no.
Can you find out for me,
Yes.
please? Thank you.
Ms. Dave.
Senator, can I just amplify that?
Yeah.
The exact number, I don't know, but that person, if we're talking about that particular case,
Let's talk about that particular case at this stage, yes.
now, that person's supervisor detected the problem and referred it to one of our investigators, so that's... And the Executive General Manager for that person, and please, I don't want to say who that is unless...
I don't know. I want to know how many.
Yeah, so in that regard, there would have been, I don't know how many exactly, but a number of investigators involved. So if you add that up, in the chain of command, there would have been about 3, 4, 5 people. In regard to who would have known about that case when you asked me that question, it would have been also the members of the Fraud and Ethics Committee.
Which I don't know how many people there are, and this question's been asked any number of times. Surely that's a simple enough question to answer. How many people on the Fraud and Ethics Committee?
So the core members of the committee are the members of the executive.
Are you, Warren?
I chair the committee.
Is Mr Boyd down the back there on?
Yes. However, there are other people that attend the committee to provide information, such as the manager of security and resilience
Leaving aside
and the
the
chief
other people
auditor.
who may attend from time to time, how many members are in this committee? It is a simple question.
So I think all the representatives are here today. So
How many members are on this committee?
Take your time and
okay,
add it up.
yeah. So there's myself. I'm the chair. So that's 1. So there's the chief financial officer, Mr. Andrew Clark. That's 2. There's Mr. Andrew Boyd, who's the head of people and culture. That's 3. And I think Mr. Mark Rodwell's also represented at the committee. So that's 4. So we are the committee, but obviously you need other people within the organisation to come to the committee as well.
Could I just pause you? So I don't want to deal with any particular matter, but the matter that Senator Stell's dealing with now, was that before or after, Mr Clark, you moved responsibility to culture, which would be the gentleman Boyd down the back there?
So let me just clarify, because I think we're getting a little confused.
It's probably designed to confuse us.
Sorry?
You've probably
Who's getting
workshopped it.
confused? Is
With
it us or you?
due respect, Senator, the responsibility and accountability for credit card management instruction, process and procedure, issuing of cards, etc., rests with me.
Yeah, but
And has always been the case.
Yep. But you,
It only, in relation to the moving of authorisation of credit card for the chief executive, which is the authorising, so one person signing off the chief executive's credit card. 2 years ago, there was a change between the head of HR and the head of finance, me. And per Senator Sterle's question, we'll provide that detail around when that happened.
so Mr Boyd, who's culture, is responsible in terms of credit card for what?
So he's not responsible for credit card over and above his own management team's
Now,
use of credit cards.
Yeah, mate, is he responsible for what's on the credit card, or who gets the credit card, or...?
For his personal
For his
credit
own-
card?
No,
yes.
no.
So in terms of the organisation and the whole processes around credit card, the policy, etc., that rests with the Chief Financial Officer.
So what's he got? What's Mr Boyd
None.
got?
What, as I understand it, because once again it was before I was with Airservices, Mr Boyd also has only been with the organisation about 18 months, I think.
Mr Boyd,
Yep.
I've got it here.
Yep.
Okay, Chair.
So, do you want me to finish that or?
No.
I'll come back to it.
Yeah, it's in the Heffernan can. So we've recognised that there was 3, 4, 5, there was some other people, some chain of command. So when I asked you about the question of credit card fraud and send estimates 2 weeks ago, who was in the room, apart from yourself, who would have known about the case that I'd asked about? About credit card fraud. Sorry, it was credit card fraud. It wasn't one single case, it was credit card fraud.
Well, my recollection, you did mention a particular case.
Okay.
So,
Who in the room would have known about it?
in this room now, or
2 weeks ago, when I asked the question.
Okay, it would have been the people almost.
Were
Most
you
of
all
the people.
here? All of you who know about it? Who was here in Senate Estimates who knew about it?
But I did not recall any of the details about that
No,
particular
that's
item.
right. Only Mr. Rodwell?
Senator, I was also at the...
Oh, Mr. Clark, you were at Estimates too, you lucky devil?
Yes,
Okay.
I was.
Ms. Stabe, anyone else?
Mr. Hood was
I was
there.
at estimates, but I was unaware of
You
the
didn't
credit
know
card.
that. You've already shook your head. You had a look like you just trod on a hot dog poo when Ms. Stabe dealt with it. And you don't know anything about it. You've cleared that. That's all right.
Mr Clark know about it?
Hang on. Yes, Mr. Clark did, Chair. And he was here.
Kept his mouth
He
quiet.
was here. So what I'm leading to, you see, Ms. Stabe, I must come back to this. And when I asked questions, firstly, I took the impression that you just didn't not want to answer me. This is what I took, and you will have the opportunity to defend yourself. Then with a bit more questioning, then you came out and then you alluded it could be $10,000 to $20,000, which is not the case. Ms. Stabe, I want to ask clearly, what is your remuneration package as the CEO of Airservices?
Can I first say about my response to when you first asked me that question? I was aware of the case and there were particular issues that I didn't want to discuss in public, which...
So you thought that you would fob me off?
No, Senator.
Because that's what you tried to do, Ms. Stabe.
No, Senator, I did not intentionally do that.
It was an accident you were trying to fob me off.
No, I apologise if that's how it came across to you. I was worried... Can I go in camera so I can explain this or not?
Ms. Stabe, I'm not interested in the intricacies. We've made that clear. What I am concerned about was you did not want to answer. Then, eventually, as the question went on, then you came up with a figure, which was completely wrong, and that's inexcusable. I now want to ask you once again, what is your remuneration package as the CEO of Airservices Australia?
Can I just reiterate, Senator, it was not that I didn't want to answer the question. I was having trouble. So now I will answer the question you just
so
asked.
now you're all right. No, stop, you can. Tell me what is your remuneration package as the CEO of Airservices Australia?
Senator, as you know, it's reported in the annual report.
Yes.
My total attainable remuneration is just over 600,000.
Great, congratulations, that's tremendous, fine. And I love to see workers get paid properly. So when I ask you a question, Ms. Stabe, I don't expect to be fobbed off. Then I find it inexcusable, because your performance was so underwhelming, Ms. Stabe, that when you did mention a figure that was nowhere near it, you have ability, you have people in the room sitting alongside you who are not new to this process. You had a cohort of people from the department and Airservices who could have helped assist with the answer, and you made absolutely no effort until we had to flush it out and then got it all wrong. So I found, and I hope that I'm completely wrong, but you did not instill any in me any confidence that you were above
Can I just
the
pause
problems
you there,
within
Senator Sell?
Chair,
Yeah, but I'm
within
asking
your
you-
agency.
We've got the point you're making, Senator Sell, and I'll pause you there just for clarification. So the matter that Senator Sell raises, Mr Clark, could you have answered Ms Stabe on the day?
I don't think I could have assisted in answering the question. I think between the people that were sitting at the table answering the question, and including Ms Stabe, there was a degree of confusion vis-a-vis the lack of detail around what was the matter being discussed.
No, Mr Clark.
No, that wasn't.
That's disingenuous.
That's a workshop then.
Someone only had to say, yes, we have had an issue. And then someone at the table, Ms Stabe, one of her lieutenants who are so loyal, could have come out and said, we can provide you with the details, but we'd prefer to talk about it later. Whatever, not try and fob us off.
Mr.
That's what
Clark,
happened. And none of you ran to a defence.
No, hold.
Unless you're under instruction not to.
Mr Clark, that might be a workshopped answer. It was very clear what we're on about, and I have to say, my impression from this side, and not the back of the room, is maybe there are certain things that the old Greg Russell club in Airservices that exists doesn't want Ms Stabe to know about, and in some matters she may be kept in the dark, and I'm just wondering whether you're part of that. I mean, surely you knew what Senator Still was on about. Don't pretend there was some confusion. It was black and white.
Well, as I've already said, it was certainly confusing in terms to the matter that was being referred. And I think from memory it was a question that Senator Gallagher had asked.
Dear, oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear.
I know exactly who asked what, and I asked, was there any credit card fraud? Ms Stove, did you want to add anything?
Senator, look, I just want to
If you're being set up, give them up,
No,
because
well, I
you didn't
didn't-
come out looking good.
I acknowledge that, Senator. I did not answer that question well.
Maybe it wasn't your fault because you probably weren't briefed well.
I knew about the matter, but I didn't want to go into the details because of the special...
Understand.
So, Senator, please, for the record, I was not trying to fob you off. I was trying to work out how to answer the question without going into those complex personal issues. So I didn't answer the question well, and I acknowledge that too.
Can I just put something in from a slightly different perspective? You're a $1 billion operation, you got nearly 1,200 credit cards. When you issue one credit card, anybody will tell you there's a risk. Do you have a risk mitigating strategy and do you regularly report on it? Because to come to estimates and look, whatever your excuse is, to look dodgy, for want of a better word, is dumb. You're a $1 billion company, you've got 1,200 credit cards. You must have a risk mitigating strategy and report on it.
Just to call order to the meeting. I think we will be here for a good while this afternoon. I think to clarify this situation, it might be appropriate to go in camera just briefly now, if that's all right with the committee. Is that all right? So should we just move in camera, and thank you very much.